The wheelchair sat at the top of the stairs. Mama Adana's hands gripped the armrest so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. She could see Ngozi's face just inches from her own, beautiful, cold, and utterly without mercy. You should have stayed downstairs where you belong, old woman. Ngozi's hands were on the wheelchair handles now. Mama could feel the shift, the terrible forward tilt as the wheels lifted slightly off the ground. Ngozi, please. Mama's voice cracked. I am your husband's mother. You were his mother. The push came fast. One moment Mama was looking into Ngozi's eyes, and the next she was falling. The wheelchair tipping forward, the world turning upside down, the stairs rising up to meet her like the fists of an angry god. She tried to scream, but the air was knocked from her lungs. Her body tumbled, weightless and helpless. The wheelchair flipped. Metal crashed against wood. Her head struck the banister. Her arm bent at an angle that arm should never bend. Down, down, down. And then, impact. The bottom of the stairs. Silence. Mama Adana lay twisted and broken on the cold marble floor, her vision blurring. Warm blood spreading beneath her head like a dark halo. Above her, at the top of the stairs, Ngozi stood watching, and she smiled. Hello, guys. Welcome to African Tales by Zion. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it with your friends, and most importantly, turn on the notification bell so you can get informed when I drop another amazing story. Drop your thoughts and reactions in the comments. What would you have done if you were Mama Adana and no one believed your warnings? Let's dive in. The wheelchair sat by the window on the ground floor, and from that window, Mama Adana could see everything. She could see the compound gate swing open at 11 in the morning when her son Chitty had been gone for work no more than 3 hours. She could see the silver Mercedes pull in, the same silver Mercedes that had been pulling in every Thursday for the past 8 months. She could see the man step out, tall and confident, dressed too well for a casual family visit, carrying nothing, bringing nothing, arriving like he owned the place. She could see her daughter-in-law Ngozi open the front door before he even knocked. She could see the way they embraced, not the way cousins embrace, but the way people embrace when they have been counting the hours until they could touch again. And she could see them disappear upstairs into master bedroom, the door closing with a soft, final click that echoed all the way down to where Mama Adana sat, powerless and burning with the truth no one would believe. She reached for her phone. She had called her son 4 times this month. For times she had tried to warn him. For times he had sighed that particular sigh, the one that said, Mama, not again, the one that said you're imagining things, the one that said you just don't like her. But she called anyway. Mama. Chitty answered on the 3rd ring, and she could hear the traffic in the background, the blare of Lego's horns, the impatience already settling into his voice. Is everything okay? Your wife's cousin is here again, Mama Adana said, keeping her voice calm though her heart was pounding. A pause. Then, Ibuka? Yes, Mama, I know. Ngozi told me he's visiting from Enugu. He's staying the weekend. Chitty? Mama, please. His voice dropped, became the voice of a man who has had this conversation too many times. He is her cousin. Family. You have met him before. I have never met him, Mama Adana said quietly. Not once. He is always leaving just as you arrive. Have you noticed that? Mama, that's just bad timing. His work schedule, my travel. It doesn't mean anything. Chitty, I am telling you. Mama, firmer now. I know you don't like how Ngozi spends money. I know you think she's careless with the household account. But that doesn't make her a bad wife. And it doesn't mean her cousin is. What are you suggesting, Mama? Mama Adana closed her eyes. She had been suggesting it for months. But her son would not hear it, could not hear it. He loved his wife too much, trusted her too deeply, and every warning Mama gave was filtered through his belief that she simply didn't approve of Ngozi, had never approved, was looking for problems where there were none. I am suggesting, Mama Adana said slowly, that you come home early one of these days. Surprise her. I can't just leave work, Mama. I have meetings all week. He softened slightly. Look, I know you worry. I know you think she spends too much. But she's my wife. I trust her. Please, Mama, try to get along with her. For me. And then he was gone. The line went dead. And upstairs, behind the locked master bedroom door, the people who were not cousins continued doing what they'd been doing every Thursday for 8 months. Mama Adana sat in her wheelchair and felt the weight of her own helplessness settle over her like a thick, suffocating blanket. She had not always been in this chair. 3 years ago, she had been the one running this household. Cooking, cleaning, moving through the world on 2 strong legs. Then the stroke came, sudden and brutal, and when she woke in a hospital, everything below her waist was gone. Not dead, the doctors said. Just silent. The nerves didn't speak to her legs anymore. They had forgotten the language. Chitty had renovated the ground floor for her. A bedroom, a bathroom, a small sitting area by the window. He hired Amara, a young woman from the village, to help with her care. He visited every evening when he came home from work, sat beside her, held her hand, told her about his day. And he had married Ngozi 2 years ago, a bright and beautiful woman who had swept into his life like something out of a dream. In front of Chitty, Ngozi was perfect, respectful, attentive, always asking Mama if she needed anything, always smiling that warm, wide smile. But when Chitty left for his business trips, and he left often, his import-export business demanding travel to Abuja, Port Harcourt, even London, Ngozi's face changed. The smile disappeared. The warmth went cold. Mama Dana had watched it happen slowly, the transformation. The first time Chitty left for a week, Ngozi stopped coming downstairs entirely. She sent Amara with Mama's meals on a tray, never once checking on her herself. The second trip, Mama heard the parties upstairs, loud music, laughter, the sound of bottles clinking. People Mama had never met filling her son's house while he was gone. The third trip, Ibuka appeared. Mama, this is my cousin from Enugu. Ngozi had said brightly, her hand resting on his arm in a way that made Mama's stomach turn. He'll be staying a few days. Ibuka had smiled down at Mama Adana with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Good to meet you, Ma. They went upstairs. They stayed upstairs for hours. And when Chitty called that evening to check in, Ngozi answered on speakerphone, her voice sweet and light. Yes, my darling, everything is fine. Your mother is resting. My cousin Ibuka says hello. He's sorry he keeps missing you, but has to leave early tomorrow for a meeting in Enugu. Chitty had laughed. One of these days I'll finally meet this cousin of yours. Next time, Ngozi promised. But next time never came. Ibuka always left just hours before Chitty returned. His visits were always timed perfectly. Always when Chitty was unreachable. Always when Mama Dana was trapped downstairs with no way to prove what she knew. She had tried telling Amara to take photos, but Amara was terrified. Ma, she will kill me, Amara whispered one night, her eyes wide with fear. She told me if I ever speak about what I see in this house, she will have me and my family killed. I believe her, Ma. I have seen the way she looks at people. So Mama Dana sat in her chair by the window, watching, knowing, powerless. Until one day, she wasn't. It was a Thursday afternoon. Chitty had left for Port Harcourt that morning. By noon, Ibuka's car was in the compound. By 12:30, the bedroom door upstairs was locked. Mama Dana turned her wheelchair toward the hallway and called out, Amara. The young woman appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. Yes, Ma. I need you to take me upstairs. Amara froze. Ma, Madam said... I know what she said. Mama Dana's voice was steady, but her hands gripped the armrest of her wheelchair so tightly her knuckles went pale. She said it's not safe. She said I could fall. But Amara, I need to go upstairs. I need to see. Ma, if she finds out, she won't. Mama Dana looked up at the young woman, and something in her gaze must have been fierce enough, desperate enough, because Amara's resistance crumbled. What do you need me to do, Ma? Carry me. It took 20 minutes. Amara lifted Mama Dana from the wheelchair, her arms shaking with the weight, and carried her step by step up the staircase. Mama's own arms wrapped around Amara's neck, her useless legs dangling, her heart pounding so loudly she thought it would give them away. At the top, Amara set her down gently on the second wheelchair, the one that had been stored in the upstairs hallway, the one Ngozi said was unnecessary, the one Chitty had insisted on keeping just in case. Mama Dana positioned herself just outside the master bedroom door. The door was not fully closed. There was a gap, barely 2 inches wide, but it was enough. She could hear them. Ngozi's voice, low and breathless. Ibuka's laugh, deep and satisfied. The sound of the bed shifting. The unmistakable, undeniable truth. Amara pulled out her phone with trembling hands. She held it near the gap in the door and pressed record. 3 minutes of audio. Clear, damning, unquestionable. Then Amara switched to video. She angled the phone carefully and captured the moment they emerged from the bedroom. Ngozi in a silk robe that wasn't tied properly. Ibuka shirtless. Both of them laughing, touching, entirely unaware they were being watched. Mama Dana's hand shook as she pulled out her own phone and took her own video. She wanted 2 copies. She wanted evidence that could not be erased, could not be explained away. When they were done, Amara lifted Mama again and carried her back downstairs, back to the ground floor, back to the wheelchair by the window. They sat in silence for a long moment, both of them breathing hard. Sent to my son's email. Mama Dana said finally, the one he only checks on his home computer. Amara hesitated. Ma, what if... Send it. Mama said, he needs to see this when he comes home. He needs to see on his own, without her standing over his shoulder. Amara nodded. She attached the files, the audio, the video, everything, and sent them a Chitty's email with a simple subject line. Mama needs you to see this. Then they waited. 2 days later, Ngozi came downstairs. She stood in the doorway of Mama Dana's room, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. Amara tells me you went upstairs, she said quietly. Mama Dana met her gaze without flinching. Yes. Why? Because I wanted to see the truth with my own eyes. Ngozi stepped into the room. She closed the door behind her. When she turned back, the mask was gone entirely. The sweetness, the warmth, the pretense of respect, all of it had vanished, leaving only something cold and sharp. You should have stayed downstairs where you belong, old woman, Ngozi said softly. Mama Dana's heart was pounding, but her voice remained steady. I know what you are. I have proof. And when my son comes home and checks his email, he will know too. Ngozi's eyes narrowed. Proof? Video? Audio? Everything. For a moment, Ngozi said nothing. Then she smiled, a slow, terrible smile that made Mama's blood run cold. Then I suppose, Ngozi said, we'll have to make sure you're not around to explain it to him. And she turned and walked out of the room. Mama Dana sat alone in the growing dark and realized, for the first time, that she might have made a terrible mistake. If you've ever been dismissed when you try to warn someone you love, this story will hit differently. Don't go anywhere. Next chapter is where Mama Dana makes her move. Subscribe to African Tales by Zion, and let's see how far Mother will go for the truth. Chitty was supposed to return from Port Harcourt on Sunday evening. It was Friday morning when Ngozi made her move. Mama Dana woke to the sound of footsteps on the stairs, not the light, careful steps of Amara bringing her breakfast tray, but heavier steps, deliberate steps, the steps of someone coming with purpose. Ngozi appeared in the doorway. She was dressed beautifully. As always, a flowing cream dress, gold jewelry, her face made up as if she were going somewhere important, but her eyes were hard. Good morning, Mama, she said, her voice bright and false. I thought we should have a talk. Mama Dana's hands tightened on the armrest of her wheelchair. About what? About the email you sent my husband. Mama's heart skipped. I sent him the truth. Ngozi stepped into the room and closed the door behind her. The truth, she repeated softly. Is that what you call it? A sick old woman who can't even walk, spying on people, recording private moments, trying to destroy a marriage because she's bitter and jealous? I am not bitter, Mama Dana said, her voice shaking now. I am trying to save my son from a woman who does not love him. Love. Ngozi laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Your son is a wallet to me, Mama. A very generous wallet. Do you think I married him for love? I married him because he is rich and stupid enough to believe every word I say. And you've been a thorn in my side since the day I walked into this house." Mama Dana stared at her, stunned by the naked cruelty in her voice. "But it doesn't matter now," Ngozi continued, walking closer, "because Chitty doesn't check that email. He barely remembers it exists. And even if he does see your little video, I'll tell him you hired someone to create it. I'll tell him you've been trying to destroy our marriage from the beginning. I'll cry. I'll beg. And he will believe me. Mama, he always believes me. He will see the truth," Mama said, but her voice sounded weak even to her own ears. "The truth," Ngozi said, "is whatever I say it is." She turned and walked toward the door. Then she paused, her hand on the doorknob, and looked back. "Stay downstairs, Mama," she said quietly, "where you belong, and stop trying to climb stairs. You might fall." The door closed. Mama Dana sat trembling in her wheelchair, the threat hanging in the air like smoke. She reached for her phone and called Amara. "Ma." Amara's voice was frightened. "She knows," Mama whispered. "She knows about the video." There was a long silence. Then Amara said very quietly, "Ma, I'm scared." "So am I," Mama admitted, "but we did the right thing. When Chitty comes home..." "What if he doesn't believe it, Ma? What if she's right?" Mama Dana had no answer to that. She spent the rest of Friday in her room, listening to the sounds of the house above her. Ngozi's laughter, music playing, the doorbell ringing, Ibuka's voice. He had come back. Of course he had. With Chitty gone until Sunday, Ngozi had 2 full days to do whatever she wanted. Saturday passed the same way. Mama barely ate. Amara brought her meals but said little, her eyes darting toward the ceiling every time there was a sound from upstairs. Sunday morning, Mama Dana made a decision. "Amara," she said when the young woman came to help her bathe, "I need you to take me upstairs again." Amara's eyes went wide. "Ma, no. She told you." "I know what she told me. But Chitty will be home this evening. I need more proof. I need something she cannot explain away. Ma, it's too dangerous. Please, Amara." Mama reached out and took the young woman's hand. "I cannot live in this house knowing what I know and being powerless to stop it. I am asking you. Help me one more time." Amara looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded, tears in her eyes. They waited until noon, when the sounds from upstairs suggested Ngozi and Ibuka were occupied. Amara carried Mama up the stairs again, slower this time, both of them holding their breath. They positioned the wheelchair outside the master bedroom door. This time, the door was fully closed, but Mama could still hear them. And this time, she didn't just record. She knocked. The sounds inside stopped abruptly. Footsteps. The door opened. Ibuka stood there, shirtless, his face going pale when he saw Mama Dana sitting in her wheelchair in the hallway. Behind him, Ngozi appeared, wrapped in a bedsheet, and her face went from shock to rage in less than a second. "What are you doing up here?" she hissed. "I came," Mama Dana said calmly, "to see my son's wife and her cousin." Ibuka grabbed his shirt and pushed past him, muttering something about needing to leave. His footsteps pounded down the stairs. The front door slammed. Ngozi stepped into the hallway, and her eyes were wild. "You just don't know when to stop, do you?" she said, her voice low and shaking. "I will stop," Mama said, "when my son knows the truth. Your son," Ngozi spat, "will never believe you. I will make sure of it." She stepped toward the wheelchair. Mama Dana's heart began to pound. "Ngozi, please." "You should have stayed downstairs, old woman." Ngozi grabbed the handles of the wheelchair. Amara screamed from the top of the stairs. "Madam, no!" But it was too late. Ngozi pushed. The wheelchair tipped forward, and Mama Dana felt the world lurch, the sickening sensation of falling forward into nothing. She tried to grab the railing, but her hands caught only air. The wheelchair hit the first step, flipped, and she was tumbling, her body weightless and helpless. The stairs rising up to meet her again and again, each impact a burst of pain and shock. She heard Amara screaming. She heard Ngozi's voice, cold and detached. She tried to go upstairs alone. Stupid woman. And then the world went dark. When Mama Dana opened her eyes, she was at the bottom of the stairs, her body twisted, her head wet with something warm. Pain radiated from everywhere. She could not move, could not speak. Amara was crouching over her, sobbing, her phone pressed to her ear. Yes, please, send an ambulance. She fell down the stairs. Please hurry. And then Ngozi was there, kneeling beside Mama, and her performance was flawless. She was crying. She was shaking. She was the perfect picture of a devastated daughter-in-law. Oh, God, Mama, what were you doing up there? Why didn't you wait for help? The paramedics arrived within 15 minutes. They loaded Mama Dana onto a stretcher, her vision blurring, her breath coming in shallow gasps. As they carried her toward the ambulance, Ngozi leaned close to Amara and whispered, so quietly the paramedics couldn't hear. It was an accident. She tried to go upstairs alone, and she fell. That is what you will say. If you say anything else, I will have you killed, and your mother, and your little brother. Do you understand me? Amara, trembling and soaked in Mama's blood, nodded. The ambulance doors closed, and as they drove away, Ngozi stood in the driveway, wiping fake tears from her face, and smiled. Mama Dana is fighting for her life. Amara is too terrified to speak, and Ngozi thinks she's won. But justice has a way of finding the truth, even when everyone is lying. Subscribe to African Tales by Zion. Next chapter is where the tables begin to turn. Chitty's phone rang at 7:30 Sunday evening, just as his flight from Port Harcourt landed in Lagos. It was Ngozi, and her voice was choked with sobs. Chitty, please come to the hospital. It's your mother. She fell down the stairs. She's in surgery. Please hurry. He didn't remember the drive to the hospital. Didn't remember parking. Didn't remember running through the automatic doors into the emergency wing. All he remembered was the white lights, the smell of antiseptic, and Ngozi standing in the waiting area with red eyes and trembling hands. She ran to him and collapsed into his arms. I'm so sorry, she sobbed into his chest. I should have been watching her. I should have locked the staircase gate. She must have tried to go upstairs alone and... Where is she? Chitty's voice was hoarse. In surgery. They said her leg is broken in 3 places. She hit her head. There's bleeding. They don't know if... She couldn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Chitty sank into one of the plastic waiting room chairs and buried his face in his hands. 3 hours later, the surgeon emerged. She's stable, he said, and Chitty felt something in his chest unclench. But the injuries are severe. Broken leg, fractured ribs, head trauma. She'll need extensive rehabilitation. And he paused, choosing his words carefully. There may be memory issues. Head injuries like this can affect cognitive function. Can I see her? She's still unconscious. But yes, you can sit with her. Chitty walked into the ICU room and stopped in the doorway. His mother looked so small in the hospital bed, her head bandaged, her leg in a cast suspended in traction, machines beeping around her like a chorus of mechanical grief. He pulled a chair to her bedside and took her hand, the hand that had held his when he was a boy, the hand that had fed him, bathed him, loved him. Mama, he whispered, I'm so sorry. I should have been home. Behind him, Ngozi stood in the doorway, watching, her face carefully arranged into sorrow. But inside, she was calculating. If Mama Dana woke up and remembered what happened, Ngozi's entire world would collapse. The marriage, the money, the life she had built on lies, all of it would be gone. She needed Mama to stay silent, or better yet, not wake up at all. 3 days passed. Mama Dana remained unconscious, her body fighting to heal, her mind somewhere distant and dark. Chitty barely left the hospital. He slept in the chair beside her bed, holding her hand, willing her to wake up. On the 4th day, she did. Her eyes fluttered open slowly, adjusting to the light. She saw Chitty first, his face exhausted and lined with worry, and something in her chest tightened. Mama, he breathed, leaning forward. Thank God. You're awake." She tried to speak, but her throat was dry. A nurse brought water, helped her sip through a straw. When she could finally talk, her voice was a rasp. "Chitty, I'm here, Mama. I'm here." Her eyes filled with tears. "Your wife," she whispered. "She pushed me." Chitty went very still. "Mama, what?" "She pushed me down the stairs. It was not an accident. She pushed me." Chitty's face was torn between relief that she was alive and something else. Something that looked like disbelief struggling against terrible understanding. "Mama, are you sure? The doctor said you might have memory problems." "I am sure." Her grip on his hand tightened with surprising strength. "I went upstairs. I saw her with that man. And she pushed me because I told her I had proof." "Proof?" "Video. I sent it to your email." "The one at home." Chitty stared at her. Then he pulled out his phone and started scrolling. But Mama shook her head weakly. "Not your phone. Your home computer. The old email." He hadn't checked that email in months. "Chitty, please." Mama's voice cracked. "Believe me. For once, believe me." He looked at her, his mother, broken and bandaged in a hospital bed, begging him to trust her. And for the first time, he did. "I'll check it," he said quietly. "I promise." That afternoon, Chitty's sister Chioma arrived from Abuja. She swept into the hospital room like a storm, took one look at her mother's injuries, and her face hardened into something dangerous. "Who did this?" she demanded. Chitty pulled her into the hallway and told her everything. Mama's claims, the email, his own growing doubt. Chioma's eyes went cold. "So we're going to check that email. And then we're going to involve the police." "Chioma, we don't even know if Mama says Ngozi pushed her, then Ngozi pushed her." "Mama doesn't lie, Chitty. You've just been too blind to see it." The police came that evening. They interviewed Mama Adana first. She told them everything, the affair, the threats, the push. Then they interviewed Amara. The young woman sat in the hospital corridor, her hands shaking, her eyes red from crying. "It was an accident," she said, her voice barely audible. Mama tried to go upstairs alone. She fell. The officer frowned. "You saw it happen?" I heard it. I was in the kitchen. I heard her fall." "And you're certain no one else was with her?" Amara hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. "I'm certain," she whispered. The officer closed his notebook. "Without a witness to corroborate Mrs. Adana's account, this will be difficult to prove." Chioma stepped forward. "My mother is not a liar." "I understand, ma'am. But right now, it's her word against her daughter-in-law's. And the maid confirms it was an accident." After the police left, Chioma pulled Chitty aside. "We need a confession," she said. "Ngozi thinks she's won. We need to make her believe she's safe, and then we need her to talk." "How?" Chioma's mouth set in a grim line. "We tell her Mama has lost her memory." Chitty stared at his sister. "You want us to lie?" "I want us to get justice. Mama is willing to do it. Are you?" He looked through the window into his mother's hospital room, where she lay small and broken in the bed. "Yes," he said finally. "I am." They told Ngozi that night. She came to the hospital with flowers and tears and perfect concern, and Chitty met her in the hallway outside Mama's room. "How is she?" Ngozi asked, her voice trembling. "Stable." But he paused. "The doctor says a head injury caused some memory loss. She doesn't remember the fall. Doesn't remember that day at all." Ngozi's face flickered, just for an instant, with something that looked like relief. "Oh, that's terrible," she said quickly. "Will it come back?" "They don't know. Can I see her?" Chitty nodded and opened the door. Ngozi walked into the room, and Mama Dana looked up at her with blank, confused eyes. "Who are you?" Mama asked. Ngozi smiled. "It's me, Mama. Ngozi, your daughter-in-law." Mama stared at her. "I don't remember you." And Ngozi's smile grew wider. "That's okay, Mama," she said softly. "You just rest. Everything is going to be fine." She left the hospital that night with spring in her step. She thought she had won. She had no idea the trap was already closing. Ngozi thinks Mama's memory is gone. She thinks the danger has passed. She has no idea what's waiting for her. Subscribe to African Tales by Zion and don't miss next chapter. The finale where justice speaks louder than lies. 2 weeks later, Mama Dana was discharged from the hospital. Chitty brought her home in silence. The wheelchair folded in the trunk, his mind heavy with everything he still didn't want to believe. He had checked the email. The old one, the one he hadn't opened in months. And there it was, the video, the audio, everything his mother had promised. Ngozi and Ibuka, together, undeniable, unforgivable. He had watched it 3 times, alone in his home office. The sound turned low so Ngozi wouldn't hear from upstairs. Each time he watched it, something inside him broke a little more. But he said nothing. Not yet, because Chioma had a plan, and the plan required patience. When they arrived home, Ngozi was waiting at the door, her face arranged in perfect sympathy. "Welcome home, Mama," she said warmly, bending down to a wheelchair. "I prepared your room. Everything is ready for you." Mama Dana looked up at her with the same blank, distant expression she had maintained at the hospital. "Thank you," she said quietly, "but I don't remember who you are." Ngozi's smile didn't falter. "That's all right, Mama. I'm here to take care of you." Over the next week, Mama played her part perfectly. She asked questions she already knew the answers to. She looked confused when Ngozi mentioned things from the past. She was docile, quiet, broken, and Ngozi grew bolder. She stopped pretending to care. She spent money freely, her purchases arriving in shopping bags with designer labels that she didn't bother to hide. She invited friends over in the evenings, their laughter echoing through the house. And 1 week after Mama returned home, Ibuka came back. Chitty was in Abuja for work, real work this time, though he left the house lined with small cameras that Chioma had installed while Ngozi was out shopping. Ibuka arrived Thursday evening, just like always, and this time, Ngozi didn't even bother being discreet. They drank wine in the living room. They laughed loudly. And Ngozi, drunk and careless, started talking. Mama Dana sat in her wheelchair near the window, silent and still, a small voice recorder hidden in the folds of her wrapper. "You know what the funniest part is?" Ngozi said, her words slurring slightly. "She can't even remember that I pushed her. The stupid old woman really thinks she fell." Ibuka laughed. "You actually pushed her down the stairs. She was going to ruin everything." Ngozi's voice rose, angry even in her drunkenness. "Sending videos to Chitty, trying to expose us. What was I supposed to do? I had no choice. I pushed her, and she went down those stairs like a sack of yams." She took another drink, then turned toward where Mama sat by the window. "Look at her," Ngozi said, her voice dripping with contempt. "Sitting there like a broken doll. Can't walk, can't remember, can't do anything. I thought she'd die in the hospital, but the stubborn woman survived. But it doesn't matter now. She's useless." She walked over to Mama Dana and leaned down close, her breath reeking of wine. "You should have minded your business, Mama," she whispered. "But you just couldn't help yourself, could you? And now look at you. Pathetic." Mama Dana's hand, hidden beneath her wrapper, pressed the stop button on the recorder. Every word was captured. Ngozi just confessed to everything, and she has no idea Mama recorded every single word. The trap is set. The evidence is ready. Subscribe to African Tales by Zion because next chapter is where justice finally speaks. The next morning, Chitty and Chioma returned. Ngozi was still asleep upstairs when the police knocked on the door. Amara answered, and when she saw the officers, her face went pale. "We need to speak to Mrs. Ngozi," the lead officer said. Amara went upstairs and woke her. Ngozi came down 10 minutes later, dressed in a silk robe, her face confused but not worried. "Officers? What's this about?" Chitty stepped forward. He looked at the woman he had married, the woman he had loved, the woman he had offended against his own mother's warnings, and his face was carved from stone. "It's about what you did to my mother," he said quietly. Ngozi's eyes flickered. Chitty, what are you talking about? It was an accident. Everyone knows." "We have a recording," Chioma said, stepping beside her brother, "of you confessing. Last night, every word. The color drained from Ngozi's face. That's impossible. She doesn't remember. She remembers everything. Mama Dana said from her wheelchair near the window. Her voice was strong now, clear, no longer weak and confused. I always remembered. We just needed you to tell the truth. Chitty held up his phone and pressed play. Ngozi's own voice filled the room, drunk and cruel and damning. I pushed her, and she went down those stairs like a sack of yams. The officer stepped forward. Mrs. Ngozi, you're under arrest for attempted murder. Ngozi's face twisted. She lunged toward Mama Dana, but the officers caught her, pulled her back, and she started screaming. She deserved it. That old witch deserved it. Always in my business, always watching, always judging. They cuffed her hands behind her back and led her toward the door. As they passed Amara, Ngozi turned and spat. You were supposed to keep your mouth shut. But Amara stood straighter than she had in months. I'm done being afraid of you, she said quietly. At the police station, Amara gave her full statement. She told them everything. The affair, the threats, the day Mama was pushed, the way Ngozi had forced her to lie. She said she would kill me and my family if I talked. Amara said, tears streaming down her face. I was so afraid, but I can't lie anymore. Mama Dana is a good woman. She didn't deserve what happened to her. The trial took 3 months. Chitty sat in the courtroom every single day, watching the woman he had married be revealed for what she truly was. The prosecutor presented the voice recording, the video evidence of the affair, Amara's testimony. The hospital records showing Mama's injuries were consistent with being pushed rather than falling. Ngozi's lawyer tried to argue that Mama had misunderstood, that Ngozi had been drunk and exaggerating, that the whole thing was a tragic misunderstanding. But the jury didn't believe it. They returned a verdict of guilty, attempted murder. The judge sentenced her to 15 years in prison. As they led her away in handcuffs, Ngozi looked back at Chitty one last time. I loved you, she said. Chitty looked at her with eyes that held no warmth, no forgiveness, only a deep, exhausted sadness. No, he said quietly, you didn't. And that was the last time he ever saw her. That evening, Chitty sat beside his mother's wheelchair in the garden behind the house. Chioma was there too, and Amara, who Chitty had insisted stay on, not as a maid, but as family. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Chitty reached over and took his mother's hand. Mama, he said, his voice breaking, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. I should have listened. I should have. Mama Dana squeezed his hand. You loved her, she said gently. That is not a sin, my son. You have a good heart. She deceived you. That is not your fault. But I chose her over you. I chose her word over yours. And now you have learned. Mama's voice was firm but kind. That is what matters. You have learned that when the people who love you try to warn you, you should listen. Not because they are perfect, not because they are always right, but because they see things you cannot see. They have lived longer. They have seen more. And they love you enough to risk your anger to keep you safe. Chitty nodded, tears running down his face. Chioma leaned forward. Mama's right. We can't ignore the people who raised us just because we don't want to hear hard truths. Our parents have earned the right to be heard. Chitty looked at both of them, then at Amara, who was wiping her own tears. I will never make that mistake again, he said quietly. From now on, when someone I trust tries to warn me, I will listen. I will check. I will not dismiss them as jealous or bitter or old-fashioned. Because Mama, his voice broke again, Mama almost died because I wouldn't listen. He paused, then turned to face all of them, his voice steady now with conviction. We must never think our parents are old and saying rubbish, or that they speak against someone just because they don't like them. If they say something, we should check it out. They are our parents. I believe they cannot see something bad happening and keep quiet. I was a fool. I almost lost her because I didn't listen. Mama Dana pulled him close, and he rested his head on her shoulder the way he had when he was a boy. You are a good son, she whispered, and you will be wiser now. That is all any mother wants. They sat together as the sun set, a family broken but healing, justice served and lessons learned. And somewhere far away, in a prison cell, Ngozi sat alone and remembered the moment she had pushed an old woman down the stairs and thought she would get away with it. She had been wrong. Justice had found her, and it always would. This story was never just about revenge. It was about the love of a mother, the courage of a maid, and the hard lesson that truth always finds a way. If this moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to African Tales by Zion, because stories like this matter. More are coming.